So this video today is kind of gonna be like a extended pep talk, and it was inspired by a conversation I had on Twitter last night with some people about how tenacious Bernie Sanders is. Okay, so here's your reminder that we are fighting the good fight to create a country that works for all of us, and we're very fortunate to have someone like Bernie Sanders as like a moral compass, and as a benchmark to calibrate our focus and our energy and our attention, right? Because we can't control anything that happens outside of us, but we can control what happens inside, right? How we will react to things or feel about things, and you know so what becomes important is where we focus our time and attention, and who we hang out with most, and what we listen to, which is why, in my personal life, and I tell this with others, like, be very protective of your energy and your frequency and vibration, frankly. Again, because what you listen to on the regular, like, impacts your energy and how you feel about things, right? So in general, I like to listen to people talk where when they're done, I leave feeling either informed, educated, inspired, motivated, or even if it was like hard information, I feel like, okay, here's something, and I can go do something, okay? Even if it was hard information. And that's something that Bernie does, right? And he'll point out, like, okay, here's the big issues that we have, but at the end of his talks, you always feel like, okay, there's something that we can do, that it's not hopeless, that we work together, we can achieve things, right? we can. It doesn't seem like that often, I know, because in typical politics, this goes back again to, where are you putting your attention and focus and energy? What narratives are you primarily listening to? Because there are a lot of people out there, from mainstream media all the way down to the YouTubers and the podcasters and Patreons, who are just going on and on and on about how everything is screwed up, it's jacked up, they're against you, you're never gonna win, it's all hopeless, all the people with money, it always goes their way, right? If you constantly listen to that, then it's easy to get sucked into believing that that is true, when, really the opposite can happen, okay? But what that requires, though, is our energy and our focus moving more in that direction. Something that really helped me when I was in Silicon Valley as a startup founder, and having worked in a whole bunch of startups, is that like a rule of thumb was, you spend 10% talking about the problems and the issues and getting things out, right? And then you spend 90% of the other time on actions, solutions, strategies, plans, successes, losses, replanning, pivoting, anything related to action, because the bulk of your time should be focused on fixing, improving, changing, making things happen, learning from your mistakes, not letting roadblocks or setbacks impact you. You just, okay, what happened? Re-strategize, replan, pivot if you have to, go over, under, whatever, but you go on. You don't give up. You persevere. And that's something that, on the weekly, sometimes daily, like, Bernie reminds me, and he reminds all of us, that we cannot give up. We must persevere and be tenacious. And he himself is a walking, talking example of tenacity and perseverance, right? I mean, if you go back to videos of Bernie when he was mayor in the 80s, right? He's still giving some of the same speeches today, okay? Back in the 80s, like when I was in junior high, I was a kid in the 80s, and Bernie was still saying some of the same speeches about, the corruption in politics and how politicians are bought off by money, and then how, the news impacts like what voters and Americans think of things, like the climate change. He was talking about then, he's still talking about it now. Healthcare, universal healthcare, like all these things, the the man has not given up. No matter how many roadblocks, setbacks, punches, blows, whatever that would break most human beings, Bernie Sanders has been able to just plow through that and keep going. I mean, it truly is a superhuman power. I mean, and that's kind of what we were talking about last night, was just like, it is remarkable how Bernie has been able to stay in just the corrupt, cutthroat, mean, backstabbing, depressive, horrifying world that is Washington, D.C. and federal politics. And not only has he survived it and not broken, the man still keeps going on, right? I mean, he's energetic. He's still in there. And now as chairman, as the Senate Budget Committee, very powerful position, he's there like, utilizing and pushing those powers as much as possible. And you notice, anytime he has an opportunity to talk about the power of reconciliation and how the Democrats need to use that, he's also kind of quietly saying, yeah, I'm the Senate Budget Chairman. I can make it happen. Let's do this, people. Like, because we can. Screw the Republicans. They're in our way. We have the power, right? So, he kind of does it in a low-key way. I kind of wish he would be more like, look, I'm the chairman. I can make it so. I got the power, right? I got the gavel in the Senate Budget Committee, and I have the power of reconciliation. And so let's use it. Let's use it, because while we have power, because who knows what's going to happen in 2022, right? So this is another example where, again, Bernie he teaches us about tenacity and perseverance. And, this is very, very important as we work on huge things like Medicare for All and Green New Deal. These two, they're not just bills, okay? Or legislation. We're talking about enormous systematic change, right? We're talking about going up, not against just the establishment, but up against the system of capitalism itself, okay? Where a small handful of people, compared to the whole, have literally billions and trillions in profits and personal benefits to them, right, at stake. So they're not going to give up easily, right? And they're not going to just say, oh, yeah, okay, healthcare is a human right. Like, you guys should just have healthcare, right? The insurance industry is not going to do that. They're going to fight tooth and nail. Big pharma, right? They're going to fight tooth and nail. They're going to throw all the money they have at this to keep the system in place so they can continue with their endless greed, their endless ability to make profits at our expense, right? And we're facing this also with the fossil fuel industry. Despite the fact that there's a climate crisis or an emergency, they're still like, well, we still need to make money. And they have a whole political party in the form of the Republicans, still doing their bidding. And again, even to get these two bills enacted, these, monumental tasks that we're facing, it's also going to take, we have to elect enough votes in the House and in the Senate and a president of the United States all at the same time to enact these things, right? And that will use their power, and then a president who will actually sign it into law. Now, then just because it's signed into law doesn't mean, that Congress passed it, that it's just going to happen from there, because it could pass Congress and still take decades, if we still even have a livable planet in decades. Again, I try not to be cynical about that, but That's the reality. We don't have decades for anything, for most, actually, yeah, I'll just say it. We don't have decades for everything, because if the planet becomes unlivable, then literally nothing else matters, because we will be forced severely into basic survival mode, right? With, like, I'm here in California, like the fires are get worse every year. I mean, last year was record, you know, over 4 million acres were burned last year, which was more than I think the last 3 or 4 years combined. That was burned in 1 year. And we're already in a drought this year, and it's already in April. We already started having 90-degree temperatures, which is not normal at all here in California, and I'm very nervous about the fire season this year. But that's a whole other thing. So anyway, again, but we have to be tenacious, and we have to persevere, because not only are we fighting for someone we don't know, we are also fighting for a goal in a timeline we have no idea. We cannot plan for, I mean, we can't even guesstimate like when Medicare for All will be passed or Green New Deal, right? But either one of those, we can't even guess a timeline when those are going to happen on the federal level, okay, on the macro level. And then if we bring it to the state level, like passing state level type Medicare for All and Green New Deals at the state level, a little bit easier to put a time frame on it, but still very vague and very obscure, because again, even at the state level, that means electing a whole state assembly, state senate, and a governor that are all on the same page and will all pass it at the same time, okay? But again, that happening on the state level is a lot more feasible in terms of happening sooner than it is on the macro level with the federal stuff. Because again, even at the federal level, if they pass it, if there's a thing where the states have to ratify it or approve it or whatever, that could take decades if it even ever happens. So here's an example, okay? The ERA, the Equal Rights Amendment, was introduced in the House, in Congress, in 1923, okay? It was introduced in 1923. It did not pass in Congress until 1972, okay? In 1972, Congress passed it. It was 84-8 vote. However, it required that 3/4 of the states, 38 states, approve it and ratify it. So then that way it could become official. So, okay, that was 1972. Fast forward to 2020, Virginia was the 38th state, okay? It took, okay, like from 1972 to 2020, that's 49 years, okay? 49 years it took to get the 38th state. And now it's still not going anywhere, because now it's being challenged in terms of, well, there was originally a time frame when those 38 states had to approve of the ERA, and that's up for debate. But still today, okay, so get this, still today, we do not have it in our Constitution that discrimination based on sex is unconstitutional, okay? To this day, that is not in our Constitution. You would think that would have been a no-brainer. We should have passed last century, but we're already almost 25% done with this century, and it's still not in our Constitution. Women can still be discriminated upon because of our sex in the year 2021, okay? You know, another thing that's kind of remarkable in terms of how slowly things change in our country. So, I mean, and this was something that I actually didn't know until recently. So it wasn't until 1965 that all women of color could vote. So, so 1920 is when we had women's suffrage, and 1920 is when they passed that women could vote, right? But the caveat in that in 1920 was that it was only white women who could vote in 1920. It wasn't every woman in America that could vote. So it took 45 years from 1920 to 1965. Oh no. Yes. 1965, when the Voting Rights Act, Voting Rights Act was passed, that all women of color, like every woman of color could vote in 1965. Now, just to give you a little scale, in 1965, that was the year Viola Davis was born, Nina Garcia from Project Runway, Chris Rock. That was the year they were born, okay? They don't seem that old, but that was the year when women of color could actually vote in the United States, okay? Then it wasn't until 1971 where the voting age was dropped from 21 to 18. And what pushed that was the fact that the Vietnam War was going on, and it just seemed hypocritical that we were sending these, young people over to Vietnam and they couldn't even vote. So 1971 is when then we made it, we dropped the voting age to 18, okay? And again, for scale, okay, 1971, that was the year Regina King was born, Missy Elliott, Mary J. Blige were born in 1971. They don't seem that old, right? So in terms of time scale, so you think would have thought that things that happened that seemed like they happened like a long time ago, really they haven't. They have, it hasn't been that long in the scale in the history of America. So now again, we're looking at Medicare for all. There's been, we've had the Affordable Care Act, which was a big deal, and then we've had other attempts, to kind of expand on that. But, Bernie didn't, the Medicare for all, Bernie didn't officially introduce that until 2017, right? That's the first time Medicare for all, named as that, was introduced into the Senate, and then Congresswoman Jayapal that same year introduced the House version, okay? That's 2017. Now we have 2021. It's been reintroduced in the House, and then the Senate version, the newest Senate version will be coming. So again, this is going to be a long process because, like I said, we're up against just our country takes, it takes a long time for us to change things. But we're going to have to, again, like I said, we're going to have to elect a whole new House, Senate, and a president all at the same time to get this signed into law, and then get all the states on board, which again goes back to the micro level. Well, maybe we be more aggressive on the state level and try to get Medicare for all passed on the state level, and kind of do what Canada did, right? The way they got universal health care was one province at a time, and it started with Saskatchewan, and it took 20 years for every province to get on board, so all of Canada was covered. All their people were covered. So maybe that's the faster way we get Medicare for all passed, on the state level, the micro level, right? The state level. So anyway, okay, so that there was some history there and some scale, but again, a reminder, and again, this is where Bernie comes in and helps us, and the rest of our movement, right, is we must be tenacious, we must persevere, we must continue to fight the good fight. We cannot become cynical or hard or get trapped in depression and feeling defeated, because we're going to get beat up time and time again. They're going to throw roadblocks, they're going to throw setbacks, it is going to be, this is a hard fight, okay? Like, just to be blunt, this is a hard fight, but it is a worthy one. And and every day, every week, we keep going and we keep going until we finally get, Medicare for all passed, Green New Deal passed, and hopefully Green New Deal. I mean, again, we're in this climate crisis. I get really nervous about these things, and that, hopefully we get those things passed much sooner, because we need a livable planet. So anyway, we have each other, not me, us. The movement is not gone away. We have each other. We need to stick together. Keep yourself, your energy, your time, your energy focused on the future to believe in, the goals that we have set, and we are not alone. We will get more people on board, and one way or another, we will make change happen and have a country that works for all of us.